am so happy I did not speak on that situation because I don't know, something just wasn't making sense. And I didn't want to take a bold stand. And look now, my girl has been vindicated. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Queenie for those who don't know me, and we are going to talk about the Love Island All-Stars fallout because when I tell you, every single day something new happens. I actually recorded a video on April 2nd. And the things that have happened since then, I said, you know what, let me wait. Let me let things marinate and then I'll come back. So now I formulated some thoughts and I have some things to say. So before I get into it, please make sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell, hype up the video, and leave a comment down below. Disclaimer. I did not watch them girls' full podcast. I wasn't going to do that. I was not going to do that. But I've seen a lot of reviews. I've seen a lot of clips. So I feel like I know enough about what's going on in the Love Island All-Stars universe. Let's start talking about Sammie. If you don't know, Sammy and Kieran are no longer together. They actually hold the record for the shortest relationship from winners of Love Island. The shortest ever from winners. This is crazy. So not only is Sammie no longer with Ciaran, she's with Tyrique. And this is interesting because on the show, she was calling out so many people for coming here for clout, for not being authentic, for being game players, all that stuff. Yet here she is a month and a few days after the finale of the show, and you're with a completely different person. So both people decide to speak on it. Ciaran shared his perspective. Sammie felt hit by what he said, so she responded too. And I thought, it's interesting how in the villa it sounded like she was projecting, and yet again, outside of the villa, it sounds like she's projecting again, because I don't feel that Ciaran said anything malicious. He was just sharing his truth. But Sammie felt like she needed to rebuttal that because I guess she perceived this as an attack on her character. But let's hear from the both of them.
You and Sammie are no longer together.
Yeah, that's correct. It was a good week. It was a good weekend. And then obviously Sammie went back to London and then started to change a little bit. You know, we're messaging and stuff. Like, you know, I'm trying to message her. And I knew she was busy that week because she was going to New York. She had a lot of brand stuff to do as well. Yeah, the messages then started to get very, very distant. This is the day after. It's about 11 o'clock in the morning. Still haven't heard nothing. So I just sent up a follow, like, everything good? Like, you okay? I was like,
oh, the double text.
Yeah, that's not my proudest moment, Joe. It's like I'm seeing she's active on her socials as well. I was like, right, but that is our job.
Was that before the New York trip or after?
This is before the New York
okay,
trip.
fine.
Yeah. Day before she was going to New York, like, I rung her, and then she answered, and we were on the phone for like, what, 2 minutes, and she said, oh, I'll bring you back now. I'm driving home. I'll ring you when I get back home. Didn't hear nothing at all.
Right.
And then the day after then, she's flying to New York. Still haven't heard nothing. So I thought I'd do it. I could tell this is one-sided, but like, I don't want to be an idiot about it or like, you know, be a dick about it. So I messaged her saying, have a safe flight. Yeah, that's where it ended.
And then ended whilst she was in New York?
While she was in New York. Yeah, over the phone, which I got no problem with it being over the phone. I'm not one of them. It's like, you've done it over. I couldn't care. You could have just sent me a text.
Right.
Cool, whatever. Yeah, and...
So it was just pulling away.
Yeah, that's like
yeah.
I want to start off by saying it's actually a bit sad that someone who you once had a lot of respect for and saw in a certain light would go on a podcast and say you said things that you categorically did not. We all know that they're rumours, and everyone that knows me knows that them things wouldn't have come out my mouth. So I wanted to clear that up for a start. Secondly, girls, it's okay to call things off with someone that you're talking to or dating. Me and Ciaran were in the very early stages of dating, and we got into the real world and it just didn't work, and that is absolutely fine. I don't think anyone should be getting sick for it not working. I understand people are invested and I respect that fully, but guys, it's life. Things don't work.
I'm taken back to who came into the villa. Was it Lucinda? When Lucinda came into the villa and Ciaran was trying to, you know, give her the time of day, and Sammie just lost it, was crying the next day, just, very territorial very quickly. Yet in 2 weeks, it's over. And it sounds to me that the person who wasn't necessarily pulling their weight was Sammie. Now, that's Ciaran's account of things. We don't know. We were not there. We're not involved. But I'm just like, it's kind of giving you were projecting the whole time. That's just my... Anyways, she is a single girl, or she was a single girl. She was able to date whoever she wanted to date. From my understanding, she was single at the time that she started entertaining Tyrique. Whether that's true or not, I guess we'll never know.
She's been pictured with Ty.
Yeah. With him, like, yeah, do your thing. Like, we ain't boys, we ain't mates, fit, whatever. During that time before New York, where we still see like, sort of seeing each other, technically seeing each other. I sent flowers to her house, and I found out literally maybe a day or 2 days ago that he had also sent flowers to her house. Now, hearing this like a day or 2 days ago, I'm like, right, now I'm just being looked like to make a fool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm also clocking onto what. So there was potentially some form of crossover happening or something.
Look, I'm not gonna confirm that, but the fact,
No, but I'm just saying that's
before it was ended with me and her, that had happened before.
Right.
So she's now with Tyrique, and I'll be so honest. A part of me kind of feels like this is a humiliation ritual. Just hear me out, okay? Hear me out. This man has been pining for Sammie for a while now. On the show, he had his streaming thing going on, and he would talk about Sammie. Oh, wow, Sammie's so beautiful. Oh, Sammy and Kieran are still together. Oh, damn, like stuff like that. And one thing we know about Tyrique, he loves a challenge. And a part of me, this is not me discrediting whatever relationship they could have. They might go on and have a family and kids. We love that for them. A part of me feels as if this is a conquest for Tyrique. Just knowing Tyrique, having seen him how many times, now he's with Sammie. They hard launched, I think it was 2 days ago from the day that I'm filming. They hard launched, and even the pictures that they chose feel a little bit like a humiliation ritual. Like, some of them are very suggestive, and it's interesting. Don't get me wrong, Sammie is taking the picture as well. She's fully consenting. They both hard launched on their own page, and she had a similar picture. It just wasn't as suggestive. But even stuff like that, I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know if this is the flex that they think it is, especially for Sammie. Like, I really do hope that Tyrique does right by her. I hope that he's not playing with her. I hope that he's serious. He really wants to pursue her. If they're looking for something serious, if they're just trying to have fun, then that's cool too. But if it's serious, I hope that he's not running game on her, because I have a sneaking suspicion that this is just something for Tyrique to do. From one messy storyline to another, let's talk a little bit about Whitney. So again, if you did not know, Whitney and Belle released, their podcasts were released on April 1st. And when I tell you, it seems like those podcasts were the biggest jokes. Oof. Ooh. So the streets are saying that these two women tried to come up with some kind of narrative, but unfortunately, their stories aren't quite matching. So let's start with Whitney. Whitney went on Wumi's podcast, and honestly, shout out Wumi. She is like listening to what Whitney is saying, but she's also giving some, questions back. She's not just taking Whitney's word for everything. She's also saying, well, we saw this, so please make the story match up to what we saw, right? We're going to start with the drama that's going on between Whitney and Scott. So from my understanding, Scott and Whitney were fine up until they got home and they received their phones. It seemed that when the Stan Wars were at their peak, and it seemed like they're back up there, Whitney was looking for Scott to have her back, but he didn't, because he was more focused on backing Leanne, because Leanne and Whitney's stands were going at each other, right? So from there, it seemed like there was some tension going on. Then, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was a clip from Tyrique's stream where Tyrique was like, yeah, we're calling for peace, and Scott was like, no.
Scott.
Yes.
Me and Ciaran, I just wanted to call you, yeah, because me and Ciaran, yeah, we're calling for peace within the Love Island community.
Yeah, we're calling for peace.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like you're a mature young man.
A great young man, a great guy. I back you up. I voted for you.
Yeah. Can you initiate this peace?
No.
You heard it here first from the boy Scott. No peace. Straight war. Scott, have a fantastic night, mate. See you later.
Thank you, mate.
Wow. You know, that's what I'm thinking. I think I'm so out the loop on certain shit.
Man said no, stiff.
I'm so out the loop on shit. I would not expect him to say that.
Neither.
So from then on, you could kind of see like, okay, clearly they're not getting along the way that they used to. We know that these two were two peas in a pod, you know? So when Whitney went on her podcast, what she was saying, went on the podcast, on Wumi's podcast, because she has her own podcast with her sister. When she went on Wumi's podcast, she was basically saying, listen, Scott was on my girl Belle, okay? It wasn't Belle who was pining after Scott. It was the other way around. Scott had access to a phone and he knew that somebody was favorite girl. I don't remember who said what, but one of the girls said that Belle was favorite girl, which is why Scott went for her. And the other girl said Leanne was favorite girl, which is why Scott went for her. And I'm thinking, well, y'all didn't practice the script.
Scott ended up, getting access to a phone. He found out the public wanted him with Leanne. And then obviously came back 360 on Belle. Hence, I don't know if you lot heard it, but that's why she was like, you'll be making a logical decision. You're not going with like the emotional or I know the truth. No, she's like, I know the truth. I know the truth. Like, we know the truth. So obviously he's told Ciaran, pillow talking with Sammie. Sammie's told Leanne.
Told Leanne or told Belle?
Told Leanne.
Told Leanne what, that the public wants her and Scott together, or that Scott knows that the public wants her and
Scott knows the public wants them together. But this is things that I was the last one to find out about all of this, because you don't let me tell me shit. Let me tell me what's it. Like, so obviously Belle's in the knowing now, and it got to a point where now the whole house is in the knowing.
I was called into the beach hut where we speak to producers, and they were like, look, we want you to go after Scott. You're still mic'd, but the cameras are not on you. And he was like, I want to be with you. You know, everyone says he's a game player because he got hold of a phone when he went to the dentist. He was asking the dentist to Google things for him. He told me this, he told Ciaran, and he told Helena. So he basically had looked up who was a favourite at the time. And at the time, he said I was the favourite girl.
Wait, and the dentist was before Love Island Villa? I mean, the USA Love Island Villa, or after?
He went a few times.
I find this very interesting because I distinctly remember when Scott came in and Belle was immediately territorial. I was like, excuse Belle, hey. He just arrived, and so did you. Like, this is day 2, baby. You gotta chill out.
Your eyes are really nice.
Oh, thank you. They're so dark, don't you think? Are you actually trying to find someone?
Yes. Yes.
Didn't expect them to get along as well as they have. It's just the thing that Whitney said. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But anyways, they're both kind of caught by surprise. But either way, Scott does have another option in Belle. Belle is starting to feel a little bit jealous already. Belle, slow your roll. Slow your roll. The man has been here for 35 seconds, okay? You can't be this jealous already.
We've followed each other for like 2 years, but we've never spoke. I don't really slide into DMs.
Do you not? Do you want me to be honest?
Go on.
That's what I thought instantly.
Was it? I've experienced everything apart from the love connection aspect.
Yeah.
Are you going to give me it?
Look at you love bombing me already. He's fit. Very my type on paper. I just want to bite him. Yeah. Is it toxic if I feel slightly jealous that they've gone for a chat? Obsessive.
Yeah.
I love that. Maybe I'm the problem.
You mean to tell me this is the same Belle that Scott was pining after? That it was Scott who was on her like white on rice? I'm also hearing that this whole phone thing happened later in the season. So it has been confirmed that Scott went to the dentist while on the show. I think he even said it when he was doing a Q&A with Leanne. What I'm hearing is that the dentist thing happened near the finale. So at that point, he had already been settled in with Leanne. Belle was already focusing on Harrison, or at least trying to make it seem like she's focusing on him. So the narrative that Scott was on Belle because he had outsider information just doesn't make sense. So then we go on to the friendship that Whitney was looking for, right? We do know that she expected Scott and Leanne to have her back when the stands were really coming at her. Honestly, I don't know what it's going to take for people to stop being insane in people's DMs. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. So she wanted them to back her up. But I can understand why they didn't want to back her up because of what they experienced on the show and probably what they're seeing after the fact, because they only got to see what they were experiencing in real time. They don't know what Whitney was doing and saying when they weren't around, right? On the show, there were plenty of times when Whitney would take up for Belle before she would take up for Leanne. So I don't know why Whitney expected some kind of loyalty from Leanne. I didn't see that from her. I saw her siding more often with other women before she would side with Leanne, even before the Yemen situation. We also remember that in the villa, Leanne got a call from Kaz, and Kaz was basically saying your only true friend in there is Lucinda. She did not say Whitney is not your friend, but by highlighting Lucinda, one could deduce that Whitney hasn't been the best friend. You know what I'm saying? So already there's a little bit of tension there. Then after the show, it is being reported by Messy Mitch himself, of all people, that Whitney had a conversation with Scott and brought in Catherine, which is very messy.
I mean, Scott and Leanne are going to Iceland this weekend. I don't think they really care about what's going on. But all the beef that's happening, I don't actually think it was anything to do with In the Villa. It's the stuff you guys don't even know about. Some shady things for Scott and Leanne. I'll give you some more insight though whilst I'm having breakfast with Jacob. Whitney and Catherine tried FaceTime and Scott when he was with Leanne just as he left the villa. What was that saying? Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Even I don't do stuff like that.
That to me is wild. If this is true, because one thing about Mitch, yes, he's messy, but I've yet to hear him be wrong. And he even provided screenshots. So I'm inclined to believe him. I am. So yeah, I'm just like, Whitney, I don't know, girl. You have to be the type of, I did a video not too long ago. And I said, people want the village and don't want to be a villager. You want a certain kind of friendship that you are not providing to the people you want it from. Please, how does that make any sense, right? So the confusion continues with Whitney because she opened up on Wumi's podcast about the drama with Indiyah, right? After they come off the show, Indiyah was interviewing Yemen and Whitney. Whitney did later admit that there was alcohol involved, which played into her reaction. But a lot of people felt that Whitney was reacting in a rude way. Whitney initially on her podcast with her sister said that, no, was it that podcast or did she go and speak to Tyrique? Ooh, I don't remember. One of those occasions, she had said, it's rich for Indiyah to want to come at me for my drama when you're going through what you're going through. And I gotta say, I am so happy I did not speak on that situation because I don't know, something just wasn't making sense. And I didn't want to take a bold stand. And look now, my girl has been vindicated. She not a cheater, y'all. She not a cheater. So yeah, you're speaking on something, claiming that, oh, how can somebody with drama come to me about my own drama? Well, it turns out that that drama wasn't even real to begin with. So you're not standing on anything. So then on Wumi's podcast, she says, well, Indiyah hasn't even been nice to me over the last few years.
You have the power to alter your questions as a presenter. You're not forced to ask any questions that you don't want to ask. Indiyah knows that behind the scenes, she's not been the nicest to me. I get her on camera, but I'm not going to switch up on how you've been treating me throughout the years to now on camera we're doing that smart. I'm not built like that. Like I can't fake it for cameras. And you know how our relationship is off cam, and then you're asking me this triggering question and with no context, I'm just like, what drama? I can admit my tone was off. But no, genuinely, what drama?
The internet did a big one. They went and they pulled up footage of Indiyah and Whitney, not even a full year ago, looking very friendly. Whitney, yet again, that's one part of the story that's just not making sense, my sister. I don't know. If she had said, over the last few months, then okay, maybe. But she said for years, Indiyah hasn't been nice to her. that was easily debunked. But anyways, I don't remember Scott saying anything like mean towards the women. Maybe he has behind the scenes. But what I remember him posting on Twitter, or whatever that app is called now, was, wow, you guys had 3 weeks to come up with a story, and this is what you came up with? You could have done something better. Whitney then turns around and she's like, oh, as your founding father. I'm like, hey, you really think there would be no Scott without you? You're giving yourself way too much credit. Way too much credit. Let's start and stop right there. So yeah, the way that this is all panning out, it just makes me side-eye. I also have a problem with people who say the problem is always somebody else, that they never play a part in things, going left in relationships. Everybody else is always at fault and you're never responsible. I don't know. So then this leads me to my hot take. Guys, please don't crucify me, okay? He rose today. Jesus rose today. He already died on the cross. Don't put me on a cross, please. My hot take with Whitney is when she came off the show the first time, she was second place, yes. And she had a lot of popularity. And I don't know why, but she decided to do things unconventionally. So she didn't want to sign with the big deals that came her way, and she wanted to take time to find the right team for her and stuff, which is good. However, there was a dip in her popularity, and it continued to dip. She kind of plateaued at some point, but it did continue to dip for a while. So I feel like in recent times, she's been attempting to get back up to where she could have been and maybe surpass that, right? Where I felt I started to see that was last year when she had the breakup with Lock-In. They had been broken up for a while, right? But when the Janae thing happened, Janae got a lot of support. And Janae didn't even expose everything that was going on. She just, she put a little something. Some other people weighed in on the situation, but she didn't explain to the extent that Whitney explained. Whitney made a whole video. Whitney released texts and stuff. Even Liz, Whitney's sister, released texts and stuff. And Whitney didn't get the same support that Janae got. And at first people were saying, oh, okay, well, is this like a UK thing? Because, sometimes blackness in UK is perceived differently than blackness in the US. And sometimes the US, they have more of a, what can I say? It's more community-based, whereas the UK, it's like, hey, every man for themselves. Like, you're not going to get that blind loyalty towards black people. This is what I hear. I've heard that it's more common in the States for the black people to root for the black people no matter what. I could be mistaken, but that is what I have heard, right? So when that didn't go her way, a part of me feels like another, can I call it a strategy? I don't know, is what happened to Olandria. As we know, Olandria and Shelly, they came off the show to a lot of racist attacks, a lot of, weird little kids just doing weird stuff on the internet. And when they asked for Huda to speak up against it, Huda was like, I'm busy. I don't have time to speak up about racism, guys. Sorry. Olandria got a lot of support. And Olandria is now doing so many more things than we've seen almost any Love Islander from the US do, right? So when Whitney came off the show and she's saying, hey, I have a friend who I experienced this with. Can you speak up against, the fandom that's attacking me? And when Leanne didn't do that, I think a part of Whitney thought that she would get support similar to what happened to Olandria. And again, it did not happen. So yeah, my hot take is maybe this time around, Whitney was trying to do like a winner's play, because the first time around, unfortunately, she did fumble her momentum a bit. And unfortunately, it's not working. It's not working. I try to give Whitney some nuance because I see a lot of myself in her. I'm outspoken. I'm often misunderstood. Actually, I can't say often. I am misunderstood sometimes. But unfortunately, it's becoming a pattern of behavior for Whitney. Like, it's one thing to have a misstep. I feel like we are allowed to have missteps. We're allowed to have moments of, hey, I shouldn't have done that. But at this point, a lot of people are determining that this is Whitney's character. And unfortunately, that's going to make it hard for a lot of people to want to support you, even if you are genuinely being misunderstood. I did not mean to spend that long on Whitney, but let's quickly talk on the Belle situation. I do feel like Belle was saying a lot of similar things to what Whitney was saying regarding Scott. But like I said earlier, we have seen the evidence of you being on this man a lot more than he was on to you, you know? So then she talks about something that's very important to talk about. She talks about her mental health. She says that she has PTSD. I'm not going to speculate whether that's true or not. But what we do know about reality TV is that it is meant to break you down so that you are more malleable to push a certain storyline, right? So she says she would have moments where she would talk to a therapist about her triggers and stuff like that. And then she would come on the show and experience the exact things that she said were triggers for her.
There were multiple times where I walked out and was like, I can't do this anymore. You know, they clipped something where Lucinda was following me around. Just because you put funny music over the top of that clip, that doesn't take away from the fact that that's reactive abuse. You're following me around to get a reaction. You're trying to get that big kickoff. You know, I was going to see a psych. She would kind of assess my triggers. I'd go back into the house, and then all of a sudden I'm placed in a situation where all of the triggers she's just analysed are in front of me. You know, and when I'm saying this to the producers, I did feel like I'm asking for help and you're not helping.
I definitely think that's a horrible thing to go through. You're thinking, hey, I'm talking to a wellness team. They're out here for, you know, my best interest. And then here they are manipulating this vulnerability that you afforded them, right? On the other hand, I'm thinking, but at some point, you are the one who's supposed to take responsibility for your behavior. We remember that first time she had her row with Sean. A lot of us were backing Belle. Like, yeah, girl, we totally get it. He did you dirty, like, oh, like, felt. We get it. Get in that ass. Yeah. But then it happened again and again. And then you were going off on Lucinda again and again. And it just felt like, oh, you have like a nasty side to you. And this isn't something like, oh, somebody wronged me. No, you are now just trying to like belittle somebody else. Like you're really trying to attack this person. And a lot of it feels uncalled for the more you do it, right? So I do understand what she's saying. Reality TV is a high pressure thing. I don't know why people still are confused when they say that, especially people who've been on the show before. Like you must have known that it was going to be very like mentally taxing on you. And it is crazy that you are saying things and you're assuming that they're being said in confidence and then you turn around and it's being used against you. But like I said with Whitney, at some point something turns into a pattern of behavior and you have to take responsibility for that. And to this day, I've yet to hear both women actually say, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. I did a misstep here. This was uncalled for. I understand certain things were done to you, and some of those things are justified. But everything is everybody else's fault but yours? That argument's never going to fly over here. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the difference between reality TV and reality. Everybody who is on Love Island All-Stars has been on TV before. They've worked with this network before. So they know that there's a show aspect to this, right? If Scott is wanting to explore things, it's called for with the show. Even he was very vocal about that too. He's like, guys, it's Love Island. We're only a few weeks in. What do I look like? Jeopardizing my opportunity to chase them. Like, we're on a show. We're supposed to produce a show. He didn't say that part, but you know, it's implied, right? What separates reality TV from reality is a person's actions. And we've seen that on the show. We're even seeing it outside of the show, right? For instance, Sean. One thing that I credited Sean when it came to his connection with Lucinda is at the end of every day, Sean was going to back up his woman. So one could say, well, is Sean really serious about, oh, you know, Sean was just with Belle and then he switched up so quick, whatever. Is he just excited about Lucinda? One thing about Sean, he always, literally always had Lucinda's back. More than she even had his back. Because sometimes I was like, hey, Lucinda, they talking cash crazy about your man. You're not saying enough for me. But Sean never let a moment go by where somebody spoke crazy about his girl. Absolutely not. We also saw it on the show and even outside of the show with somebody like Yemen. So Yemen was seeing the drama going on and he was like, relax.
All right, y'all. So I've been seeing all of the hate and negative comments that Whitney's getting right now. And I've also seen a lot of love as well, right? I see a lot of y'all showing a lot of love to the both of us. And I see a lot of hate too. But you guys, When her and I are out and about, y'all, there is so much love in the street, you guys. People are coming up to us all the time, saying how much they love us, taking photos, whatever the case may be, right? But I want this to be an example to everybody that's watching, listening, Love Island fans, or just people on social media, right? Understand, y'all, that social media is not a real place sometimes, right? So what's real and what happens on social media sometimes are not synonymous, right? So you could be feeling some type of way because something you see online, but out in the real world, it's not the same. So you guys never get too caught up in social media. Everything will always be okay. Sometimes just come outside, touch some grass, all right?
And that's one thing I appreciate. I had my skepticism when it came to Yemen. I do like them as a couple, Yemen and Whitney. I just wasn't sure if Yemen and... I got my eye on Yemen, you know what I'm saying? But the way that he has been a support for her, both in the villa and outside the villa, that's how you separate what's for TV and what's reality. Yes, this person might want to explore their options or whatever, but how they speak about me, how they interact with me, that is going to be, you know, what you put your faith in, right? And lastly, Scott. Because people always want to say, oh, Scott is just here for the game or whatever. And I think there were plenty of times where he was. On Perfect Match, he wasn't serious. On Love Island USA, he wasn't serious. On Games, he wasn't serious. On All Stars? One thing that Leanne cannot say is that this man outright played her. Because yes, he was exploring like, okay, well, this new person's here. Let me get to know this person. But he never kissed. He never just outright disrespected her. Yes, there were some things where she was like, well, that's kind of shysty. Like, I don't really rock with that. That's a personal preference. But did he disrespect her? No. And she says, before somebody wants to flog me, Leanne herself said that.
When I really sat back and looked at all the facts, he hadn't like kissed someone else. He hadn't, what's the word? Like violated so much to the point where it's unforgivable.
I wanted this to be more, and it was more. Like, this was meant to be the fairy tale end in the final chapter, which we put as our first post, and it was the final chapter in the fairy tale ending. I'd never want to do a dating show again.
Even now, after the show, seeing how Scott is standing 10 toes down behind his girl, he has known Whitney for how long? They've been genuine friends, at least I thought. They've been genuine friends for so long. And he's still like, no, I love you. I'm going to have your back. I'm going to support you no matter what. That's how you separate what's for TV and what's reality. So, honestly, I don't know what's going to go on with these people. I think there's been a lot of missteps, and it's unfortunate because some of these things could have been fixed easily by just having clear communication. Okay, I don't know what was going on with the Sammy and the Kieran of it all, but something went awry, clearly. And yeah, maybe communication could have fixed that. With the Whitney and Scott situation, again, I feel like communication could have fixed that. I feel like introspection can fix a lot of things. And again, I hope that it's not coming across that I think that Scott is infallible, because that is not the case. That is not the case. He has his missteps. Everybody does. What I would have liked to see from the women, though, was a bit more honesty, a bit more accountability, a bit more introspection. But I'm also not surprised that that's lacking. Anyways, guys, if more drama unfolds, I can't guarantee that I'll cover it, but I don't know. Stay tuned. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.